Why in the F is that security guard all up on Sophie Cunningham? And look, I think there is a reason she got up in Sophie's face, and I don't think there was any need to sort of bow up to Sophie like this.
The Indiana Fever finally found a playoff moment worth celebrating, but somehow the WNBA managed to spin joy into drama. Sophie Cunningham, wearing a leg brace, only wanted to celebrate alongside her teammates after their big win. Instead, a league security guard stepped in, trying to play hero and shouting at her right in the middle of the moment. Fans weren't having it. Do you think the WNBA deliberately targets Sophie because she doesn't fit their storyline? Share your thoughts below. The stage was set. The Indiana Fever had just delivered one of their biggest wins in years, moving forward in the playoffs without Caitlin Clark, still stuck on the sidelines. The crowd was alive, buzzing with energy. The players soaked in the moment, and Sophie Cunningham, battling her own injury, sat on the bench, pouring support into her team. Nothing wild, nothing out of line, just a player in street clothes, hands coming together for her teammates.
Odyssey Sims hit the floor very hard during the game last night, and her teammates came out to the floor to check on her, except, of course, the girls on the bench, Caitlin Clark, Chloe Bibby, Sophie Cunningham, they came to half court. Did not cross the line, by the way. But for whatever reason, we had a situation involving Paula Blart, Mall Cop, that's right, played this time in the role by Wheezy from Jefferson, the Jeffersons. Showed up last night to try to check Sophie Cunningham. Did she think Sophie Cunningham was about to run out there cause an incident? Sophie Cunningham's in a damn leg contraption. It's not even a brace, it's like a contraption.
But somehow that was enough to trigger the WNBA's very own Rente Cup. Out of the blue, league security walked over and confronted Sophie like she had stormed the court or sparked some kind of riot. And just to be clear, Sophie wasn't anywhere near the scorer's table, let alone stepping onto the floor. She stood closer to half court, cheering, breaking no rules at all. Yet in true WNBA fashion, the optics once again became the entire story.
Odyssey was holding her right shoulder.
You could read it on Sophie's face. First confusion, then disbelief, then that unmistakable Cunningham glare. And really, who could blame her? She's standing there in a leg brace. She isn't sprinting onto the court anytime soon. But instead of handling it with professionalism, the security guard chose aggression, leaning into Sophie and barking at her like she was some kind of villain. The clip spread instantly. Not because Sophie crossed a line, but because it revealed the strange double standard that has shadowed her career. Fans were furious. Social media erupted within minutes. Nobody was talking about the Fever's victory or Lexi Hull's game-shifting plays. They were all talking about how Sophie Cunningham, injured but cheering, got treated like a criminal. The outrage was immediate and honestly deserved. Because here's the truth, this wasn't a one-off. It's part of a pattern. Just look back at how Sophie has been covered compared to others in the WNBA. She's outspoken, confident, and unapologetically herself. She's also one of the rare players who dares to push back against the league's carefully approved narratives. And because of that, she's been singled out by certain media voices and rival fan bases alike. Everyone knows Sophie Cunningham has carried the villain label in the WNBA. But when the league's own staff starts treating her like one during a playoff win, that's crossing the line. Let's lay it out clearly. The Fever just punched their ticket to the semifinals. On the bench, Caitlin Clark, Chloe Beebe, Sophie Cunningham, all celebrating from the sideline. Not one of them crossed the line onto the floor while a teammate was hurt. They were simply near midcourt, reacting like every team does in big moments. Yet somehow, only Sophie gets confronted. Why wasn't Caitlin yelled at? Why not Chloe? Just Sophie. Fans caught it instantly. Comment sections across Twitter and YouTube filled up with people calling out the double standard. Some didn't hold back. Sophie gets targeted because she's white, blonde, and doesn't fit the league's chosen storylines.
And I think we all know that if there's one thing that male sports fans want to see in their spaces and on their screens, it's more of me.
Others pointed out the hypocrisy. If this same moment had been Angel Reese or Natasha Cloud, the league would have spun it as passion, loyalty, teammates lifting each other. But Sophie, she's painted as entitled, out of control. And the irony is, Sophie didn't even react badly. She stood tall, refused to back down, and showed she wouldn't be intimidated. Still, you could see it was needless. The cop wasn't keeping order. She was creating drama. And when fans caught that, frustration boiled over. This goes far deeper than one clash. It's about the league's ongoing issue with players who won't fit their mold. Caitlin Clark's been facing this for 2 seasons straight. Constant targeting on the floor, hard fouls swallowed by refs, and media spin built to minimize her impact. And Sophie, always polarizing, gets trapped in the same cycle. Instead of harnessing her popularity, the WNBA seems intent on pulling her down. The numbers don't lie. Sophie Cunningham is one of the league's biggest draws, whether WNBA brass likes it or not. She trends non-stop, her highlights draw clicks, and her presence lifts the Fever's profile. Even when she isn't playing, fans still care, and that should matter in a league starving for attention and growth. But instead of capitalizing on that, the league lets moments like this unfold where Sophie gets publicly embarrassed by a cop during a playoff celebration. Now, the fan reaction, it was brutal. Within minutes of the clip dropping, hashtags like Free Sophie and WNBA Exposed were climbing. Fans blasted the league for selective enforcement and silencing players who don't fall in line. Some even linked it to past controversies, like when fans were unfairly accused of racism for booing Angel Reese, or when Caitlin Clark's hard fouls were brushed off as part of the game. The comments weren't gentle, and truthfully, they didn't need to be. People labeled the security guard everything from power-hungry mall cop to the WNBA's latest clown show. And while harsh, it revealed just how tired fans are. They want to enjoy basketball, but instead, they are watching league officials stir up drama out of thin air. And that's the real problem here. The WNBA loves to preach growth, to spotlight ratings, to say they are finally being respected. But every time the lights shine brightest, something like this overshadows it. Instead of letting the Fever's win glow, the storyline turns into Sophie Cunningham being yelled at by a cop. That's not just bad optics, that's sabotage. This league has a PR crisis, and it keeps digging deeper. Fans don't tune in to see their favorites treated like criminals for cheering. They don't want constant double standards, and they definitely don't want to be told everything's fine when their own eyes prove the opposite. And here's the twist. This wasn't some ugly fight or chaotic clash. This was joy, pure, unfiltered playoff happiness. If the WNBA can't allow its players that without stirring controversy, how will it ever convince casual fans to invest in the product? So let's move forward to the aftermath, because this mess didn't just disappear overnight. If anything, it gained more traction as fans dug deeper and uncovered how lopsided the treatment of Sophie truly was. Clips of Caitlin Clark and Chloe Beebe celebrating at the very same moment surfaced online. Both were smiling, clapping, standing almost shoulder to shoulder with Sophie at midcourt. Yet neither of them got confronted. No officer approached Caitlin. No one shouted at Chloe. Just Sophie. That's when fans started stitching the pieces together. This wasn't about enforcing rules. It was about sending a message. And here's where things get even more telling. Sophie Cunningham is not just another player. She's outspoken, fiery, unwilling to conform. She calls things out, and that's made her a target in a league that seems allergic to raw honesty. She isn't the media darling Paige Buchers. She isn't the league-approved Angel Reese. And she's definitely not afraid of challenging authority. That mix has made her polarizing. But it's also made her magnetic. Popularity, by the way, that the WNBA desperately needs. But instead of embracing her as a draw, the league almost seems determined to push her down. Just look at the marketing. How often is Sophie highlighted in WNBA promos compared to players with half her relevance? Almost never. Look at how controversies around her are spun compared to others. When Sophie clashes with a rival, she's cast as the villain. When someone else does, it's praised as passion. It's not just unfair, it's painfully obverse. And this run-in with the cop only poured gasoline on the fire. Fans saw Sophie being publicly singled out, and they weren't buying the spin. Social media lit up with questions. Why Sophie? Why now? Why was a leg-braced player who couldn't even sprint 5 feet suddenly treated like a threat? None of it added up, unless you accept the hard truth that Sophie Cunningham is being targeted. Now, zoom out. What does that say about the league itself? Because moments like this don't just impact Sophie, they shape perception of the WNBA. Fans are paying attention, and many are casuals brought in by Caitlin Clark's rise. These are viewers already skeptical of women's hoops, but tuned in because Caitlin and the Fever made it feel electric. But when fans watch Sophie Cunningham getting shouted at for cheering, they don't see professionalism. They see pettiness. They see a league more obsessed with drama than the game itself. That's the problem, because perception is everything. You can preach growth. You can brag about TV ratings. You can celebrate trending on Twitter. But if fans leave believing your league is a joke, none of it matters. And moments like this are exactly why so many still dismiss the WNBA. Not because of the players, not because of the skill, but because of the noise circling the product. And fans unleashed their frustration. Thousands of comments poured in, blasting Commissioner Kathy Engelbert for presiding over what many now call the most embarrassing league in sports. Some went further, demanding her resignation, arguing her leadership has turned the WNBA into a sideshow. When off-court controversies overshadow your on-court product, that's not progress. That's failure. Meanwhile, Sophie herself handled it with composure. She didn't lash out, didn't blow it up further, but she also refused to shrink away. Her body language told the whole story. You're not going to intimidate me. And fans admired that. They rallied around her, flooding her socials with support, reminding her she has one of the most loyal fan bases in the league. Truth is, if the league were smart, they'd realize Sophie's popularity isn't fading. Every time she's targeted, her base only grows. Every time she's disrespected, fans double down. But let's be real, the WNBA hasn't built much of a reputation for being smart about handling players. Just look at Caitlin Clark. 2 full seasons of being hammered on the court, fouled harder than anyone, yet left unprotected by officials. Look at Lexi Hull after her playoff heroics. Barely a whisper from league media. And now Sophie, shouted at for celebrating. It's a pattern, and fans are connecting it. The league wants to push the story that growth comes from everyone. But the truth, it comes from a handful of players who move the needle. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Buchers, and yes, Sophie Cunningham. That's the reality. The rest of the league feeds off those names whether they'll admit it or not. Yet instead of lifting all of them equally, the league chooses favorites and punishes the rest. It's a short-sighted move destined to collapse. Because here's the truth. Fans aren't blind. They see the double standards. They see the hypocrisy. And eventually, they'll walk away. They'll stop investing in a league that turns its own stars into enemies. And when that happens, no TV deal or sponsor in the world will save them. The WNBA had a chance to turn the Fever's playoff run into a celebration. Instead, they let a security guard barking at Sophie Cunningham steal the headline. They could have spotlighted Lexi Hull's heroics, Aaliyah Boston's dominance, the team's resilience without Caitlin Clark. Instead, fans are stuck talking about mall cop antics. That's not just embarrassing, that's destructive. In the end, Sophie's only crime was caring about her team. That's it. She was cheering in a leg brace, and for that she was treated like a threat. If that doesn't tell you everything about how the WNBA treats players who won't fit their mold, I don't know what will. And fans, they are not letting this slide. The outrage isn't fading. It's building. Every tweet, every clip, every meme keeps piling on the frustration. The WNBA can spin it however they want, but the people already decided. Sophie Cunningham was wronged, and the league looks petty once again. So here we are, another night where the story isn't the Fever's victory, but the WNBA's drama. Fans are angry. Sophie stood tall, and the league once again embarrassed itself. What's your take? Was this truly about rules, or was Sophie singled out? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more no-filter spots.